Now, at a time when cases in India are spiraling like never before, putting a tremendous pressure on the healthcare system, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, one company, has received a nod from the Drugs Controller General of India to manufacture and market an antiviral drug, Favipiravir, under the brand name Fabiflu. Now, this is the first oral drug approved to treat COVID-19 in India. But doctors say they still need more data, but it could possibly be a potential game changer for treating, remember, only mild to moderate cases. Now, there have been some studies predominantly from China and from Japan that tend to show that this may be useful in early stages as far as the treatment of COVID-19 is concerned. Having said this, like other drugs, we need more evidence to show how effective it is, how useful it is. But let's take a look at what the company has said. Now, the company says that this is a prescription-based oral medicine. The price of one tablet is 103 rupees. The recommended dose is 1,800 or 1800 mg on day 1, followed by 800 mg twice a day up to 14 days. And the company says that Favipiravir can be used for patients with comorbidities or comorbid conditions like diabetes, heart disease, with mild to moderate symptoms, and it will be available through retail and hospital channels. So, this drug, remember, is a generic version of the Avigan, which is a brand name of Fujifilm Toyama Chemicals, that is a subsidiary of the Fujifilm Corporation in Japan, which manufactures Favipiravir. So, as Glenmark Pharmaceuticals is launching this antiviral drug Favipiravir for the treatment of mild to moderate COVID-19 cases, the company claims their product of Favipiravir has a clinical improvement rate of 88% for mild to moderate symptomatic patients. Doctors, however, say that more data, more peer reviews are needed to endorse these claims. What do you need to know about this and other new COVID-19 medicines and their effects on patients? What are these drugs? Do they show improvement in COVID-19 patients? Well, we've put together a panel that looks out for you and evaluates these questions, keeping your health and your pocket in mind. Joining us tonight on the show, we have Dr. Rakesh Verma. He is the Additional Director General of Health Services, the DGHS of the Government of India. We have Dr. Naval K. Vikram, Professor of the Department of Medicine at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, a public health expert, joining us tonight. We have Dr. Monica Tandon from Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, the Mumbai-based firm, which on Friday received the manufacturing and marketing approval from the Drugs Controller General of India, the DCGI. We have Dr. C.S. Pramesh, he is the director of the Tata Memorial Hospital, Dr. D. Roy, former Deputy Drugs Controller of India and of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We have lots to get through. So, Dr. Pramesh, let me start with you. On a day when many hearing this news would be saying, oh good, that's great news, finally, you have tweeted that the desperation of a pandemic is not a reason to sacrifice evidence-based medicine. You've hashtagged it as evidence-based medicine. You say we cannot abandon science and logical reasoning. Why do you say that? Dr. Pramesh?
Yeah. So, normally when a new drug is approved, you base the approval on robust evidence based on randomized trials. So what we've seen here is a lack of robust evidence before the approval has been made. So typically you have two arms of a study where one arm is given the standard of care, the other arm is given the standard of care plus the new drug, and you show that the new drug is actually making a difference. We've had very little data from many of these studies, and I wouldn't just single out Favipiravir for what it's done. Most
Absolutely.
of the studies that we've seen with COVID-19 have lacked the robustness that you need to do with a well-conducted new drug being evaluated. So that's the problem that I have with that. It's not been compared to something and proven to be effective. You told me about this 88% of patients who have improved. So typically, anywhere from 80 to 85% of patients improve anyway, regardless of whether they get treatment specific for COVID or not. So unless you have a comparator arm where you've shown that the new treatment is superior to the existing treatment, I think we are jumping the gun in showing that as a new advance for the treatment of COVID-19.
Okay, let's get in Dr. Tandon then. Dr. Tandon, you're hearing Dr. Pramesh saying there's a lack of robust evidence, very little data to show that this medicine has efficacy. And again, I want to repeat what Dr. Pramesh is saying. This is not about Glenmark. This is the concern of the public, that there are, you know, every week we hear of a new buzzword when it comes to medicine. Remdesivir, for example, before the Lancet study that was retracted. Respond over here. Have you initiated phase 3 clinical trials on this product for COVID-19 patients in India? Have you tested the drug's efficacy?
Yes, thank you. I think it's a very important, point of discussion, because this is the challenge of our times. We have a pandemic in front of us, as well as we have these drugs, that have proven antiviral effect, and we want to bring solutions, effective solutions. So we have to find that fine balance between evidence and the ability to provide these medications.
Correct.
So
we are in a pandemic, but does that mean we can take a shortcut? That's the question, I think.
Right. So I don't think we should be taking a shortcut. I don't absolutely recommend that. So Glenmark has embarked on clinical trial. It's a phase 3 clinical trial of 150 patients in mild to moderate subjects. We started it about 1.5 months back, and we have early readouts as well. So I agree, there is some evidence from Japan, there is evidence from Russia, and there's evidence from China that shows that this drug has led to early virological clearance. Because I agree, see, all patients eventually will get cured. Most patients will eventually get cured. But the key here is time to cure analysis, which is coming up as one of the fundamental endpoints, and how fast we can elicit that clinical cure in patients and virological clearance and reduce infectiousness. So it's a double-edged benefit. So patients get to improve early, they're discharged early from hospitals, as well as they become less infectious.
So that is a very critical point. I'm glad you mentioned this. So the positive of this is that, we have such a load on our infrastructure. If this actually works, we don't know yet for sure, your company claims it does, then it would reduce the load on the infrastructure. But Dr. Tandon, I want to just go point by point. First, you say you have done, or you phase 3 clinical trials on 150 patients. Are the studies results out? Have they been published in peer-reviewed papers? Because that is normally the norm, usually the norm. But as you point out, we're in a pandemic. Have they been published in peer-reviewed papers?
Right. So our trial is currently ongoing. So we've taken an early readout from our trials, and we've seen that it's in trend with these global evidences. And the trial is very shortly going to be completed in about 3 to 4 weeks from now, and we'll be publishing the results. But
so the drug's real efficacy will only be known in the coming months.
That's right. The real efficacy, the large-scale evidence, which normally is seen in a clinical trial setting, will eventually be known. But
so clinical trial, 150 patients, I'm not sure if that's a large scale, if that's the norm. The real efficacy, you're also admitting, will be known when it's administered on a large scale. Dr. Naval Vikram, you're the public health expert on the panel tonight. As Dr. Tandon points out, in this pandemic, there have been so many buzzwords. We are in a pandemic and everybody is rushing to find a cure. But at one point of time, all we could talk about was hydroxychloroquine. Then there was that retraction in Lancet. Now there's Remdesivir. That's all everybody's talking about. How is the DGCI fast-tracked the approval process and granted this domestic company, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, the permission to manufacture and market Favipiravir, you think?
Because this drug has, in a few trials, as mentioned earlier, has been shown to have early viral clearance and benefit in mild to moderate cases. So, being in this current situation, we don't have any proven drugs as of now, and Remdesivir also is approved only for severe cases. It's not to be used in mild to moderate cases. So, and that is also an injectable drug. So this
Yes.
probably
So
being
the
an
advantage
oral.
of this drug is that it is an oral medicine. You can take it straight at home. Remdesivir, for example, much more expensive, and it has to be injected. So you have to go into a hospital, which means additional pressure on the infrastructure. Thank you. I'm repeating. I want to clarify because a lot of our viewers, like me, don't have medical backgrounds like all of you experts. So forgive me if I just go over some of this, slowly and painfully. Go ahead, doctor.
Yeah. So remdesivir also has quite a few side effects. It's not free of side effects, and in the critically ill patients there can be problems. Whereas this drug, so far, whatever couple of studies which are there have shown that it can be used even with individuals having comorbidities. So that is something probably maybe of use, that in individuals having comorbidities, so like cardiac problems, we cannot use hydroxychloroquine, we cannot use azithromycin. So this drug, if found to be useful in the trial, and of course there has to be controlled trials to see the effect, only then one can definitely say that it might be useful. As of now, the limited information we have is that it shows early viral clearance and it shows improvement in mild to moderate cases.
But my question, doctor, really is that for a lay person, medicines like this, again, it's not about Glenmark, it's not about this particular drug. Every week there's some new medicine out, and the lives of our loved ones are at risk. I may rush out, I know I will, rush out to the market to buy this drug if it's easily available, because I don't want to take a chance, and these are expensive. I think this drug will cost 3,500, remdesivir could cost thousands and thousands of rupees. So Dr. Rakesh Verma, drug makers across the world, as we've said, have been rushing to develop this treatment or a vaccine for the coronavirus. It's infected over 8 million people globally. It's killed 500,000 globally. So we understand the stakes are high, but is the government conducting trials, for example, to test the efficacy of this drug? Does the government have a role to play?
See, I understand two different points, as my predecessor told, but I must appreciate you know a lot about drugs and drug trials. There are two kinds of drug trials. One is a fresh trial for a new drug. Second is repurposed drugs. This means like aspirin. Aspirin 150 years ago was invented and used. It was used for fever. But today maximum use of aspirin is for cardiac patients, for prevention and treatment of angina and heart attack. So these drugs which I was mentioning today, that is favipiravir, is a reprocessed drug. It was already under use for several years, being marketed freely in Japan for influenza treatment.
Yes.
For the safety profile, the other pharmacokinetics of the drugs were already well known. And this is being tried additionally now for COVID as an experimental medicine. I must reassert, the approval has not gone for a blanket use for all the patient always. No. And before giving the medicine, the physician treating has to take a written informed consent for use of this medicine to the patient and by the relations.
Why?
Because, as you just mentioned about 10 minutes back, this drug, it has been utilized for some other indication like influenza in other countries. So safety profile is known. But
then why do we need to do that? Why do you need to have, why do you need the patient to sign a slip saying that?
I'm coming to that. Because the indication for which it has been approved is for experimental use in mild and moderate cases having symptoms of corona infection and infestation.
Sir, I'm so sorry. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a layperson who has a loved one who is sick. You're telling me this is an emergency drug. You're telling me it is an experimental drug. You're telling me I should still use it on a mild case. If I have a loved person who's a mild case, why should I use an experimental drug on them?
Through your channel and through you, I must tell all the patient, all people who are viewing this, that decision to use a medicine or not to use a medicine is not based on the patient. It has to be taken by the treating physician, who knows fully well whether this medicine will be effective for my patient A, B or C or not. And since it's a new medicine, so the consent is required.
Then why, how can I give consent, sir? If I'm a patient and I come to you and my doctor says take a medicine, wouldn't I take the medicine? How can I give consent? I would be very nervous to give consent.
Your doctor knows whether this medicine is required for a particular patient or not. If yes, then he will take a consent. Chemist doesn't have to hold a consent, but a doctor has to hold a consent. And this is the repurposed medicines. And so coming to your second question, CSIR, that's a government body, Council of Scientific Initial Research, is already conducting trial on this drug. WHO is also conducting a trial by Solidarity trial, and other things are also in process. ICMR itself has approved a fixed drug combination of 2 other drugs which were used for other virus infection. That virus infection was of HIV, Bynamol, Lopinavir, and Ritonavir for a fixed combination for use of COVID patients. So a lot of drugs are coming on the process. A lot of drugs being used, but still the sheet anchor for treatment of COVID-19 treatment is first allaying the symptoms, maintenance of the oxygen in the body, treating of any coexistent comorbidity infection like
Let me get in Dr. Roy. Dr. Roy, as I mentioned before, this is a medicine that is only there to treat mild cases, unlike dexamethasone, right? For example, which has shown significant reduction in mortality, and that is critical given the numbers of the mortality in India. But given that this is only for mild cases, while it is important to also take on mild cases so we don't burden our infrastructure, why should we push for this right now? Why has the DGCS given the clearance for this? Because why not wait a few more months? As Dr. Tandon is saying, in another month, in 3 to 4 weeks, they'll have the results. They can get it peer reviewed. Why not wait?
Madam, one thing I can tell you, that this particular drug, it is not a very new drug. It is already being used. That's
in Japan.
Some speakers said that in Japan,
for influenza.
It is from 2014 this drug is being used. So, for influenza, yes, for novel influenza. But we are now in this pandemic stage. So many drugs are the physicians, they are testing on so many drugs. So, this is one of the drug, since it's an antiviral drugs, and that's why this company, they asked for a clinical trial permission. And since it is already a safe drug, so we give the permission for the phase 2 and phase 3. But phase 3 clinical trial, it takes a lot of time, and in instant case, the company has, so far my knowledge is concerned, they have only done 100 patients.
150.
So on that particular report, it is very difficult to give a clear permission for 100, only 100 patients they have tried. So on the basis of 100 patients results, it is very difficult for any regulator to give a marketing authorization permission, because it takes more time. But for this pandemic use, what the regulator they did, the DCGI office, my earlier office, what they did, they give a restrictive permission just to study it, because if we get certain results, then ultimately it can be of use. So you can say it is a extended clinical trial, but at the same time, a condition has been imposed to the company for post-marketing surveillance reports, and that has to be submitted to the office of DCGI to take further action.
Okay,
so
Dr. Parmesh, Dr. Parmesh, does this argument, do you buy this argument? Are you comfortable with this? If we are in a pandemic, the mortality rate is going up across the board. Like I said, 500,000. We need to try what we need to try. There's no sign of a vaccine in sight.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me make myself very clear. I'm as desperate as anyone else to find a solution and a cure for COVID-19. At the same time, sacrificing the basic principles of clinical studies, clinical research for the sake of finding expedient solutions to this is not something that I would completely agree with. So if the company can do a 100-patient study, and at the rate at which we are currently going, how long would it take to do a 500-patient or a 1,000-patient study and to actually show demonstrable benefits in outcomes? And I don't buy the argument of finding earlier viral clearance. We had a webinar as part of the National Cancer Grid yesterday where we debated about what the meaningful outcome for a patient is. For a patient doesn't care about whether the virus stays in the throat for 5 days or 7 days. What is important for the patient is, does the patient get a complication because of the infection, and does the patient survive? These are the most important outcomes that we are looking at. And you cannot answer this question with a 150-patient study. You need a much larger study, and the rate at which
we said that up front. That is not the norm for a clinical trial, phase 3 clinical trial. Okay. Dr. Tandon, please respond. I want to give you the closing argument here. Also, you know, I was looking at how you have to take this pill. It's over 14 days that you take, I think, 2 pills a day. But wouldn't, if I had a mild case of COVID-19, for example, God forbid, or any one of us did, we would have to be under home quarantine for 14 days anyway. So how would I know for sure that I have recovered because of this particular medicine or any of these new COVID-19 antivirals that are coming out increasingly in the market?
Right. So one thing I want to make clear that this medicine is not only for mild, it is also for moderate cases, and moderate cases include pneumonia as well. So you're right, it is twice daily medicine. It's for a maximum period of 14 days. But what we've seen is patients, they become clinically cured of their signs and symptoms. Many patients become cured just by day 7. So they don't need to take the complete 14-day treatment, you know, complete period. Right.
Okay.
So,
and I want to quickly, before we run out of time, I do want to ask this one question. All the panelists, at least some of the panelists here, said that, you know, this has been tried and tested. Everybody's used the example that it's been used in Japan for influenza. Are there no side effects of this medicine?
The medicine is not known to have any serious side effects. It's excreted through urine, and the toxic dose is very, very heavy, very high doses. So till now, it is no serious side effects with this medicine.
So does that mean anybody can take it? For example, if I'm pregnant, if I'm planning to carry a child?
For pregnant females or doubtful pregnancy, it is not advisable.
Okay.
And the decision to take this medicine has to depend on the treating physician, not on the patient. Please remember this very clearly.
I think it's all very important that we raise all of these. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Dr. Roy, quick last word to you, 30 seconds, please, sir.
I want to add one thing, that during this treatment, by counting the viral load, if the viral load gets down, then automatically we can get an answer that this drug is working.
Okay.
So continuously monitoring the viral load, it is also an essential factor.
But we will only do that now that this medicine is out in the public and being sold, and people are buying it.
Yeah. Now so many people are being used. Now, yeah. Now it will be used by so many people.
Right. Thank you all. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us tonight. It is just our endeavor to help our viewers make an informed choice. This is a very complicated matter, but it's our health that's at stake. So we hope we've been able to do a service for our viewers tonight. Thank you all for joining us on Left, Right and Centre.